Couple minutes to pipe in. I see that number climbing up already. That's great. How's everybody doing today from Grand Prairie 910?
Grand Prairie is good. You can see in the background it's misty outside. We've had a cold spell. I guess most of Alberta has, but we're nice and toasty in the agency today, so it's good. We're excited for the session.
That's great. All right. Well, I will give people a couple minutes to trickle in here, and I'll start a little intro here. Please mind me while I do the spiel. Welcome everybody today for the webinar on brand strategy, visual identity, and more. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd love if everyone could pop a quick message in the chat. Just introduce yourself, let me know where you're from, what you do, and we can all get to know each other that way. My name is Trina Argueta. I'm the manager of the Digital Economy Program here at BusinessLink, and I'm here to help Alberta small businesses thrive in any way that I can. Before we get started, BusinessLink acknowledges and respects that we are on traditional land, meeting grounds, territories, gathering places, and traveling routes of Treaties 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, and the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the lands of those who have come before us, reside here now, and in the future. These webinars that we're doing today are just one way that BusinessLink can help support your business. If you haven't already, please check out the services and programs, including the Digital Economy Program that we offer at businesslink.ca. And that brings us to our wonderful hosts. Meghan and Ryan are here from the Grand Prairie-based marketing agency 910. They're on a mission to help Alberta small businesses and entrepreneurs develop their brands, establish their online presence, and become self-sufficient in activating their digital marketing strategies. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Please put any questions in the Q&A rather than in the chat. That just helps us make sure that we aren't missing anybody and that we can address all of your questions properly. If you do have to pop out early or if you need a refresher next week, this webinar will be recorded and a link is sent to you once it's available on our YouTube channel, probably a little bit later this week. So if that sounds good to everyone, I will let the 910 team take it away.
Thank you so much, Trina. I really appreciate that lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today with all of you. This is not the first time that 910 has worked with BusinessLink to host some webinar sessions on our area of expertise. So I'm really excited to be back and seeing some new faces. So today I am going to be the lead, and Ryan, our CEO and one of our owners, is going to be helping me out. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Today, our session is on brand strategy, so you'll get to know a little bit more about what brand really means and the background behind that. My name is Meghan. I am the lead for our training department. We do a lot of education around digital marketing, and we have courses, certified courses that you can take as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but for now, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan to introduce 910.
Thank you very much, Meghan. Yeah, we're really excited to be back in the trenches with BusinessLink. Trina did a really good job providing an overview of our mission, and I'll get to that in a moment. But, you know, we're a small, fierce team. We're located in Grand Prairie, Alberta. We're working from our agency today, but we're a modern agency. So like many of you, we log in remotely from Zoom and all that good stuff. So we do have a small but powerful team, including some in-house team members and some that are working remotely, including Meghan, who is living the dream working remotely with the power of Starlink. So you can go to the next slide if you'd like, Melissa, or Meghan, sorry. And so Trina did a really good job talking about our mission, and I'll just sort of state this differently. It's our goal as an agency to sort of break the model where typically clients or small businesses would be reliant on or dependent on an agency. We're trying to break that model. So although there are some foundational items that it makes sense to work with an agency to help you with your brand and your website, it's really important that you have the skills, the tools, the confidence to be able to activate those foundational items. You should be able to manage your own brand. You should be able to manage your own website. You should be able to manage your own social media, your own search engine marketing. It's just like a business that should do its own bookkeeping. Your marketing, you should increasingly do more of that in-house, and we're here to provide you the tools, the skill set, the confidence to do that. So at our agency, we have a couple divisions, and the foundational one that we talk about, and this is what today's session is about, is branding. I call this branding with a capital B, which is to say it's bigger than you think. And most people, if you ask 10 people to define brand, you're going to get 26 different answers. So we're going to define brand and break it apart into different components. And we're going to give you some simple analogies to make it memorable and sticky for you as well. And then once a brand is established, we say, well, let's get you online. It's 2024, isn't it? So websites are at the center of your online presence. You can think of it as a hub and spoke, where the website's at the center and the spokes being other touch points. And that could be social media, it could be your email marketing, it could be your search engine results, all that stuff. So we do also focus on websites, and actually just a tie into Business Link. A lot of great programs out there, including the Canada Digital Adoption Program, where there are one-time subsidies for businesses to transition their online presence into e-commerce. So we work with clients to help them unlock that subsidy, and that's all through Business Link. Again, another great collaboration with them on that as well. So then the next one is what we're doing today. It's transferring knowledge. This is through our training academy. We offer a wide array of courses where you can get professional certification. And in addition to that, we have a learning community where you can choose to join us in the learning community. And today's session will be a sample of some of the content that you would expect to experience in some of our modules in the training academy, specifically brand strategy. So with that, I'll hand it over to Megan and we'll jump right into the content.
Thank you so much, Ryan. What a great overview of us, what we do, who we are. So I guess we'll just jump right in. I would love if everyone could just say the first word that pops into your mind in the chat, please, in the webinar chat. Say the first word that comes to mind when you think of brand. Because like Ryan mentioned, if we say branding to 20 different people, we're going to get 50 different answers. It means something different to everybody. I'm seeing a lot of identity, image, face, personality, visual, colors, associations, reputation. All of those things are right, correct. How can so many different words, ideas, concepts be correct definitions for one thing? Let's talk about it. So one of the big analogies that we like to use is branding personified, thinking about brand as if it were a person. People are things that we interact with every single day, obviously, and we have a really good idea of what makes up people. So we wanted to try and bring that, the idea of branding and all of these things that you're talking about, to something that we really can understand. So this is the analogy that Ryan was talking about, trying to make it a little bit more sticky, a very high level overview of all of the different things that encompass branding. So when we think of people, the first thing that we get to know is their face. That's how we really recognize people when we see them in photos, when we're getting to know somebody new, we think about their face, how they look, their features, right? Those physical things about them. What else do we notice? Style. We notice how they dress, how they walk, their mannerisms, some of those other physical things about them. When you really get to know somebody, they walk into a room, you may not see their face right away, but you kind of see how they're standing, and they might be wearing a sport coat or a blazer, or maybe they're wearing a hoodie, and you recognize them right away because you're familiar with their style and those mannerisms and how they look. This is all of the assets that are built by graphic designers through your colors, your fonts, your graphic elements, the way that those all fit together on your website and in your marketing. That's your style, right? That's how the visual representation of you, that's not just your face, right? Your logo. What else? I saw a lot of personality, identity, reputation. That's not represented here necessarily. So let's talk about the heart. Every person you know has a different personality, I'm sure. That could be bubbly, that could be a little bit more cynical, that could be monotone, dry, very funny, humorous, right? Everybody you know has a different personality, a different persona about them, that energy. That is where our brand insights come into play. And this is maybe it is the most important step when you're starting to develop your brand, is understanding that core personality of your brand, of your business, of your company. And this is where a lot of people skip this step because it's not on the outside. It's not visual. It's not something that people can necessarily see right away, but it informs so much along the way, right? A kid's personality develops a lot sooner than the rest of them, right? So as we start to grow and understand our brands, we start to see the personality that comes out. Now, does everybody act the same way no matter who they're talking to? I know I don't. I certainly don't speak the same way to my mom as I do to my sisters. Every person that you speak to, you're going to have a different relationship with, right? Your brand should reflect that as well. The way that you speak to different target audiences is going to be different. If you are a B2B and B2C, so business to business and business to consumer market framework, you're going to speak different to those business owners than you would to the regular consumer. It's just the different language that you're using. So this is a really great kind of high level overview understanding of how all of these things come together to create this identity, this concept of branding, right? All of those things that you said before, where we're talking about logos, image, reputation, personality, associations, colors, all of those things can be represented here. Now, if we look too hard at this, you'll be able to poke holes in it, but this is a really great way to just help it stick in your mind. So, where do we start? I want you to pop in the chat here where you think that you would start here with the brand. Where would you begin? I'm thinking about maybe where we would go. Yep, personality, audience, target customer. So this is where a lot of people are thinking that you want to start. So I'm going to challenge that a little bit. We want to start with why. Why are you doing what you're doing? This is the core principle behind everything that you're going to be doing moving forward, right? Starting with your target audience could be a really good idea when you're thinking about, I need to make sure that I get my brand out to as many people as possible. Who am I trying to target? But if your target customer doesn't align with who you are, then it's a lost cause because you're not going to be able to reach those people effectively. So we want to start with who we are to our core to begin with, right? So that purpose. So this is where we introduce the idea of branding with a capital B. And this is broken down into really two main categories where we have the brand strategy, so the internal work, positioning, that kind of thing, and then the brand expression. So how we speak to people, that story, how we come across, all of those different things. So we always want to start with why. And this is where our core mission, vision, values come into play. A lot of people forget purpose. And this is where people can get some brand drift because they're not 100% sure why they're doing what they're doing. And they're just like, oh, I just want to service the industry. That's it. Simple as that. But why? Why do you want to do that? Why did you get into this industry? Why did you start this business, right? So starting with why is one of the key pieces to developing how do you reach your target audience, which comes into with positioning, right? This is where we start developing our audience personas and developing the idea of who we want to target, right? And how we speak to them. So the other thing that you'll see here are competitors and differentiation. This is when you look at other people in the market who are targeting the same audiences as you, who may be offering the same services as you, and how you differentiate yourself from them through whether it be pricing, your customer service, maybe you're digital and they're not, those kinds of things. So how do you differ from your competitors in order to reach your audience? Brand expression. So a lot of people think brand expression would just be like that visual side of things, right? What people see. But it actually starts with your character. This builds from your substance and your positioning, who you are, This is where we start to see the colorful parts of your personality coming out, right? When the kid is giggling at something very, very funny, right? That is part of their persona or their personality, right? So there's a concept called brand archetypes. Archetypes are a really well-known character framework that you can look into for sure. We won't have time to get into that today, but that informs then your brand voice, which then is how you speak to your target audiences. So you can see how all of these things start coming together and really structuring your brand and building it and who you are. So we want to start substance, positioning, that's the brand strategy, and then the character, and then we get into communication, where we start to establish our core storytelling and our tone of voice and some of those keywords in our language. One of 910's core values is education and empowering small and medium businesses in Alberta. Those are some of our keywords when we're speaking to our audiences and we talk about wanting to empower small and medium businesses. That's part of our storytelling and part of our core message, right? This is where most times your name, tagline, and promise should be in the framework, because this is part of the language and the communication that you use. This is where most people start, is the name. What is my business going to be called, right? They hear something snazzy or catchy and they want to just, let's dive right into that idea. But you can see visually now what all comes before just establishing your name. It's a lot. It's a lot. And then we get to the visual stuff, your visual identity and your presence. There are other things that go along in this expression as well. And I think I saw a couple of them in the chat earlier too. Scent, that's a really big one. Scent and audio. So those jingles that you hear on the radio, Sleep Country Canada, it sticks in the back of your brain, right? Like you can't get it out. That's part of your expression. That's part of your external, what people see about you, right? Things that make you memorable to other people. But part of that jingle, that's fun, that's spunky. It's not somber or slow, right? It has a very particular personality about it, right? And that is informed by all of this stuff beforehand, right? So we can see how a lot of people will do things out of order. We'll start with our name, and then we'll go into our visual identity. We need a logo, we need some colors and fonts, okay? And then we start to work through our marketing and we want to promote ourselves, but, and I've seen this in real life before from a number of different entrepreneurs and business owners. I want to market my business, I want to market my company, but I just don't like the way that I come across. I don't like the way that things look when I'm sharing them online. And there's nothing really wrong with it, but it just doesn't feel right. And that's because when it was created, none of this extra work was done. And so it doesn't actually align with who the business is, with who that brand actually is. And so it can lead to a lot of gaps in reality, in how you're communicating with your audience as a person versus as your brand. And one of the things that leads to is actually a broken trust. If there's a different experience for your audience when they're looking at something online with your brand versus how you're speaking to them on the phone or through the language that you're using, it's a very disjointing experience. So this is why all of that needs to be cohesive, right? And how your visual identity and your name and your presence align with all of your core values at the very beginning of the process. All right. That's a lot. This is what a lot of people think what branding is. And this is where we can see, this is the fun, creative, colorful part. And I think this is why a lot of people want to start with this, is because it's fun, it's vibrant, it's exciting to see something physical coming out of the work that you're doing. and a lot of people will get ahead of themselves. One thing that I want to point out here as well is just how different and the different vibes that you get from all of these three different brands, right? We have something that's very fun, vibrant, lots of really bright colors, kind of that like almost 90s modern take on a 90s feel with those shapes. And then this is a very different vibe, very new age, innovative, right? And then this is a little bit more subtle with the colors, but still very those geometric patterns, still very fun, modern, crisp, all those things. And these are very representative of who those companies are. All right.
Megan, I might butt in here for a second.
Yes.
We've got a really good question in the chat around brand consistency and like how to make sure that you have consistency throughout touch points. It really comes back to just laying that foundation, right?
That is a huge part of it. Yes. The other part of it is actually access and being able to consistently use your brand materials. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say the terminology that creatives would use or agencies would these are called brand compliance standards. And if I'm talking to our customers, it's like, who's going to be your brand police? Who's going to be the one that makes sure that when stuff goes out on Facebook or on LinkedIn, or you're doing new sales collateral, that it's using the words, the tone of voice, the colors, it's speaking to the right target audience, if it's target audience 1 or 2 or 3, depending on B2B or B2C or things like that. And so the goal of creating a brand strategy, which then informs your visual brand and your auditory and the choice of words, is actually a choice of identifying what you're going to say no to. You're intentionally putting on constraints. And probably one of the most common errors we find with small, medium businesses and solopreneurs is they get bored with their own brands. So for their own creative fulfillment, they will continually change the look and feel of their Facebook posts, changing the fonts, changing the colors, or they'll go and find a template in Canva that looks beautiful, but has nothing to do with their brand. And then although it might be creatively fulfilling for them, there's no consistency for the target audience who should be seeing this the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the seventh time. And then they're like, oh, it's always the same. And now it's anchored in my mind. So these brand standards or brand compliance guides are an exercise to make clear, both for internal stakeholders at the company and for external vendors or freelancers that are working and doing marketing or communication on behalf of the company. It's a set of rule books you follow within them, and it's intentionally meant to constrain you. And less is more, and constraints are very, very healthy when it comes to brand. So back to you, Megan.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really great point to bring up. Often when I'm teaching things like brand consistency and kind of basic graphic design tools, I will say it may feel boring to you as the person who's always creating this stuff. It may get monotonous, but I promise it's not to your audience. They don't have the same look at what you're doing every single day. Every single post that you make probably isn't going across their feed. And so they're not getting bored. It might feel boring to you, but I promise they're not getting bored. So that's hopefully assuaging some of those feelings and fears of, oh, am I getting too consistent, too boring? You're not. And then the second part of that too is when you don't establish those core principles at the very beginning, your purpose, why you're doing what you're doing, what you want your core message to be, that leads to a lot of tone drift as well, right?
Yeah.
And what your message ends up being.
I just wanted to add a pragmatic example. So one of our other divisions, we build websites, and occasionally a client will come to us and they have an established brand that was done professionally by another agency. That's a very good thing for us, because then we know we're designing a website with clear brand standards. So to a certain degree, we're not quote unquote designing the website. Our choice is already constrained with the colors, the textures, the patterns, the layout standards. Now we still have many degrees of freedoms on how and where we choose to put these together, but the brand guide would have given us a very clear compass in terms of the general aesthetic direction of what the website should look like. And so in that way, whether we're the agency that designs the website or a different agency, the end result should look compliant to what the company would have expected, because that's all dictated within the brand. And Trina, our host from Business Link, has been in this for a long time, and I see her head going up and down. When, as a designer or creative, you have a brand standard to refer to, it makes your work so much more impactful and ultimately more cost effective, because you have less time exploring. You're already constrained by those options. So that's kind of pragmatically the value of a brand standards as well. So back to you again, Megan.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. That was a really great question. Thank you for jumping in there, Trina. And definitely, if there's any other questions regarding this, please let us know. This is part of it, is having these open discussions, right? And making sure that we are answering any questions that you have. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, I would love, as we discuss the next parts of this, what are your feelings around some of these brands? Like what vibes do you get from these ones? I'm curious to see what your impressions are. All right. So how important is all of this really, right? The visual stuff, sure, we get that visual consistency, but how important is the other stuff really? Ryan, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so the way I like to think about this is, so first of all, to really recognize how important it is, I think you need to really, at a high level, understand the concept. So this first, branding personified, is kind of abstract. It's not 100% technically accurate, but I've been doing branding for, close to 2 decades, and I return to this analogy all the time. And just like any good mother would say, like, it's not the way your face looks ultimately doesn't matter. The character of your personality and your heart is what really matters. And yes, you'll make a first good impression by showing up dressed properly. Your aesthetic, your visual identity makes a difference in being recognized and setting the right tone. But at the end of the day, a customer is ultimately going to rate the brand or remember the brand by, and this was mentioned in the comment, by how you made them feel, by their personality, their character over time. And so brand really much is about reputation. And Marty Neumeier, a famous author, famously said, is brand is what they say it is. So ultimately what really matters here is your personality of the company. The logo and the visual identity are just so people can help to recognize you in the market. So branding personified is just a good way to kind of think about this. It's not technically accurate, but then the next slide is brand with a capital B. This is technically what we do. You can see that it's a very structured process. It's sequentially. You start at the bottom left with purpose, and you go all the way through. And sometimes when we're working with clients, we will get to the point where they already have their logo and their name, for example, but they haven't done any of that work. And so it might be that the logo or the name is in misalignment with who they are, their purpose, or their target audience, or whatever. So a brand strategy is the act of actually thinking about intentionally and documenting all of this so that it can then inform your design decisions and your marketing decisions. So when you think about branding with a capital B, you could think of this as your marketing, because certainly when you zoom out and you're doing your marketing, many of these same questions are being answered as well. So why is this then important? So if you go to the next slide, within our training academy, we train our students on, these are just 2 platforms that are pretty central within our training academy. One is Canva, which is a drag and drop design tool that's in the browser. It's just so incredibly powerful, especially with these AI additions, remove background, generative fill, all of this. Well, if you're in Canva, and if you've worked with an agency that has developed a professional brand, they've chosen the colors, the fonts, the textures, the patterns, the icons, and if they've set up what's called a Canva brand kit, and they've created a couple Canva templates, then all of a sudden here you are within the company. You're the owner, you're an entrepreneur, maybe you're the marketing manager or someone in charge of the company of doing the marketing. You can go into Canva and all of a sudden you feel like a designer, because you're using a drag and drop template, and you're using pre-designed intentional assets that are all locked and loaded and organized for you. And to the extent that you also get templates pre-built, then you can say, I need to do, just the other day, I did a post to promote this webinar. Meghan had designed a template, which was built off of all of our brand assets, colors, textures, fonts. I'm not a designer, but I can do nice design if I have a Canva brand kit. If you ask me to do a nice design in Photoshop or Illustrator, it's over. I'm done. I don't got that skill set. But the level playing field here with these tools is really great. But if I have Canva without a Canva brand kit, I'm back to the drawing board with nothing. So a preloaded Canva brand kit allows non-designers to very effectively do design, but you can see how that's propped atop of the assumption that you actually have a visual identity created. If you have a visual identity created, that should have been informed by the brand strategy. So that's why we call those foundational things. The next one is kind of more exciting, and I've seen a lot of our students have these aha moments. You think of ChatGPT, just one of the AI tools. I like to think of it as an analogy. We have another session, I forget which month, where we're doing an entire session through this Business Link webinar series where we're going to be focusing on AI. And so you think of AI as an intern, and if anyone's ever worked with an intern, you can see that they're super eager to work for you, and they have a lot of knowledge from what they've just learned, and they're ready to go. But you have to be really careful to give your intern very clear instructions, and you have to give them lots of information and context about your agency, let's say, if they're going to be doing work on behalf of your agency or your company rather. And any good intern also you have to quality control their work before it goes out and sees the light of day. But what happens is ChatGPT can do really great work for you if you give it really clear prompts, if you give it lots of context. So what context would it need? So if you're like, hey, ChatGPT, can you help me create some marketing ideas for Q1 where we're going to promote XYZ service? And I'd like to come up with a social media campaign. It's going to miss the mark on that unless you can give it a whole lot more information. But the information that you need to give it, Megan, if you want to go back 2 slides, it's going to be copy and paste effectively from here. So if you imagine all of the insights and information that have been gathered through this exercise and putting it into a document, you could load that into into ChatGPT, pre-training it so that it understands who your target audience is, what are your keywords, what's your brand archetype, understanding really clearly what your products and services are if you have different audience segments, and then you can ask it to help you to create copy for like the words that are going to go along with your social media post, or you can help it to create graphics, all this type of stuff. So you can go back to the slide of the ChatGPT there. And so what we really find is we're trying to empower businesses to have effectively in-house marketing departments powered by one person who has been educated, has been professionally developed, and who has been trained to use these tools. ChatGPT is a very effective tool. It's just one of many. It's not even, there's so many out there, but they all have the same characteristic, is that you have to give them good guidance. This is called prompting, and they need to have context. This is the pre-training. So, and you're going to get that information from the brand insight. And so in that way, one of the benefits of investing in a brand strategy is that you then have that information to better use these tools. So,
one thing that I just wanted to add in here, Ryan, that you can see we mentioned with both of these different programs, they're great tools if you have what you need to activate them. And we were talking earlier about brand drift and how that happens. You have to have that established framework beforehand in order to prevent brand drift. You have to understand what your established framework is in order to get good results from these tools. So I just wanted to reiterate that as well.
Yeah, and we'll go on to the next slide. And, today's session is about brand strategy, and we're covering it in maybe, 40 minutes or so. It goes pretty deep. So of course, we're just touching the surface and hopefully giving you an overview so you can understand when we talk about branding, what is it that we mean? We talk, yes, about the brand strategy, yes, about your logo and visual identity, but most importantly, how do you activate it or turn it on or prime pump or execute or make it work for you? And that's really the most important part as a small and medium business, is to get your brand out there. So Megan, why don't you give an overview of what's coming up for the next ones?
Yeah, so coming up, we have, this really ties in very well to what Ryan was just talking about, but looking at Canva. So we will talk about some of those really basic fundamental skills that you need to have in order to activate your Canva. So this is a really excellent one to attend. That will be coming up in a month here on February 15th. And then Canva Part 2, which will be starting your AI journey. So we'll really dive into some of those AI topics. And that will be March 21st. So that'll be coming up in a couple months there. And then we'll dive into some of those deeper AI dedicated tools. This is probably one of my favorite sessions to be a part of. I always learn so much. It is so fascinating to see how these tools advance your skill set and how they are growing consistently all the time. So this will be April 18th at 11. So Thursdays at 11 is pretty consistently how these are going to go. So I'm really excited to see hopefully a lot of you there again as well. But these are really excellent things to take advantage of. So these just tie in really, really well to what we've just been talking about. So it all comes together very sequentially. All right. So key takeaways from today. These are just the really main high level points. Hopefully you got a lot more out of it than just these 4 things today as well, but always start with your purpose. Remember to always look internally first and see where you are and who you are before trying to move outwards. Logo and visual identity. Very small part of your brand as a whole. A lot of people think that this is so huge because it's what people see. But remember when we looked at that framework, it is 2 very, very small pieces, 3 very small pieces of that entire strategy as a whole. Your purpose, mission, vision, values are foundational. You cannot build a house without a foundation. You have to have these things before you can build an effective brand and marketing strategy on top of that. And of course, then your strategy will help you implement all the tools that you need in order to effectively activate your brand, whether that be through digital media, on social media, on website, email, or even through print, right? Designing these posters for an event that you have and sharing them around town. All of those things are foundational, right? So your strategy will help implement all of those tools across the board that you have available to you, right? It's not just you, it's you and your toolkit. So remember that. All right. Any other key takeaways that you wanted to add, Ryan, in here before we jump into the next thing?
No, there was a couple questions about Canva brand kits. So when we design the visual brands, we do that in professional software with professional designers use. That's Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop. But then we take one extra step to, I call it deconstruct it, and take all of those assets and put them in Canva so that then they're then ready to be designed within Canva by non-designers, including the work of creating some extra templates. In order to get the most powerful features in Canva, you should sign up as a Canva Pro account. I think it's $149 Canadian per year. Best money you'll ever spend. That's paid to Canva, not up to us, but it gives that powerful platform to be able to do Canva design. Even my professional designers at my agency, when they need to do a quick graphic for social media, they're going to go in Canva because they can do it quicker there than they can do it in the more powerful legacy tool of Adobe Illustrator. Canva is changing the game for design, just like ChatGPT is changing the game for generative content and all that stuff. So, yeah, and back to you, Megan. Or I think, yeah, I can maybe speak to this slide. So a while back, we did some research to say, okay, if we're a training academy and we're providing knowledge, education, training, where is the value reside within this whole ecosystem, within training? And so if you're training executives or companies or entrepreneurs, where is all the value going to be derived? So there's actually a lot of research that shows that about 10% of the value comes from what they call the formal learning. That's the books, that's the curriculum. If you're in university and you're the one who says, just give me the books and I'm gonna go through them and I'll do them at my own pace, whatever. That's where just 10% of it is. And you have many students. I was one of these in university. I didn't take the curriculum so well. I did the assigned readings and I went through it quickly, but then I really engaged in when we went to class and I was talking to the peers and my hand was up and I was asking questions, the social learning. So our training academy is a peer-to-peer learning. You're going to be in there with other students, other peers, other entrepreneurs, and you will be able to learn just by virtue of participating with them and asking questions amongst peers instead of, say, to the instructors, to us. Or someone might ask a question to Megan in one of the sessions and you're like, wait a minute, that's the question I had. Or actually that answer really pertains to what I'm thinking about. So this social learning is a really key component. It's about 20% of where the value is. But then no surprise here, 70% of the learning comes from what they call experiential learning, or what I call in the trenches. And a practicum, an internship, the reason why these are always structured in so many different disciplines is because you learn from doing. So in our training academy, what you're learning this week, you should be implementing the following week. So our students typically are learning and then immediately activating on behalf of the company they're working for. So it is very much a practical experience, and that's really the main value of our training academy comes from the learning community, which we've made super accessible. Whether or not you actually want to dive into the curriculum and get professionally certified, there is value there. That's where the certification, the formal certification that the market will recognize, is within the curriculum. But the main learning and the social and experiential learning is within our community, and you can access that separate from the curriculum as well. So Megan, I'll hand it back over to you. And actually, real quickly, there's some questions in the Q&A. I'll just answer those separately. Back over to you, Megan.
Sounds good. So yes, this is the first 10%, that curriculum learning that Ryan was referencing there. These are the certified courses that we have partnered with the Digital Marketing Institute to provide. So the Digital Marketing Institute is the global leader in digital marketing education. They provide official certifications for a lot of different areas, focus areas. So we have 13 different short courses, and actually this is now actually inaccurate because 2024 they've launched a few new courses, which is really exciting, including one solely focused on AI, which is super exciting. So we have a bunch of different short courses available. These are really for upskilling in specific areas. These don't offer accredited certifications like the certified professional and digital marketing specialists will, but these are really excellent if you are, I'm super fantastic in most areas of digital marketing, but I need to work on e-commerce. So that is what these are typically for. The Digital Marketing Professional is our flagship offering. It is recognized globally through the Digital Marketing Institute, but also is actually recognized by the American Marketing Association, which is the standard for North America for marketing. So it's a really high level certification that you can actually add a little postnomial to your name, kind of like BA or MA at CDAP or CDMP. That's what it is.
Okay.
I had to think about that for a second. But this will give you the tools that you need to activate day-to-day digital marketing. It is a really excellent tool, and actually new curriculum is going to be offered starting, I think we can start enrolling students next week. Actually, what the new curriculum will become available. So there's a lot of new tools that you'll have access to with the Digital Marketing Professional.
Megan, let me just jump in for a moment.
Yeah.
Over on the left, just highlight the digital marketing essentials. There are also, so one of the short courses, the Digital Marketing Essentials, is for marketing. So for owners or managers where they don't need to learn all the skill sets to actually execute, but it sure would be helpful if they understood the general landscape and if they understood the words and if they could have a conversation with whoever their company is in charge of it. So the Digital Marketing Essentials, if it feels like a lot of this is over your head and too steep of a curve to jump in, the short course with the Digital Marketing Essentials is where you would start. Of course, there's our community, which we'll get to in a moment as well. I also just wanted to see, you'll see that there's the regular price and it's sort of X'd out, and you're seeing a preferential price. So we've established a partnership with Business Link. So exclusively to Business Link attendees of these webinars, we'll end with a landing page where you can sign up to join our community, and Megan will talk more about that. But we do have exclusive pricing for Business Link stakeholders that are participating in these webinars. So that'll be really important that you kind of go through the link that we provide at the next step. And then you'll see where it says courses qualify for the Canada Alberta Job Grant. There's already the preferential pricing, but on top of that, businesses can qualify for a 66% subsidy for professional development for their employees, or if you're the owner of a business of 4 or less employees. So they will cover owners as well as small. And so I would say 98% of our students have received the Alberta Job Grant subsidy. So this makes it really, really affordable. And this is the government, the Canadian and the Alberta government, investing in professional skills development and really helping to grow the skilled labor market. And so this is a really great program. And I see Trina has some commentary to add on this. Lots of great programs out there.
The Q&A is going crazy about this job grant situation. So how would someone go about qualifying, applying for that, like applying for the program itself?
Yeah, so we have what we call a white glove service, which is it's a recognition that this stuff is all complicated. There's so many forms, there's so many criteria. We know this program inside out. We've been really successful at guiding our clients towards these programs if they qualify. And so the broad strokes are that you have to be a registered company. And this program is meant to professionally develop the employees, not contractors. They do have to be a T4 employees. You can potentially qualify as an owner so long as yourself as the owner and your employees are less than 4. So if you have a company of 5 employees, including yourself, you cannot qualify as the owner. So we have put owners through in smaller companies and lots of employees. And then basically there's an application process, which we hand deliver. Here's the formal estimate in the format that's required. So it meets all the criteria of the Alberta Job Grant. And then we provide an info package that Meghan prepares and guides you exactly to where you need to go and follow X, Y, Z steps to apply for the process. So we've been really successful with leveraging this great program through the government. And it makes, again, our goal is to make this program really accessible to Alberta-based businesses, and this partnership and the Alberta Job Grant is two tactics or methods that allow us to do that. But this is just the courses where again, most of the value you'll see, this is the 10% curriculum. Most of the value is in the community. And so with that, Meghan, we'll transfer the next, and then Trina will maybe go back at the end if there's some additional questions. I'm sure there will be.
Yeah. So you've heard that term community tossed around quite a bit, but what that really entails is that classroom environment. So we do twice weekly live classes through remote access. So no matter where you are in the province, you'll have access to these classes if you'd like to join them. So what that looks like is we do teach topics outside of what is in the certified curriculum, things like Canva, design, AI tools. We teach things really practical application for content marketing and developing content strategy, and actually how do we come up with content? What does that look like? And formatting things for social media and the different platforms that you want to be using. So there's a lot of extra content that we talk about in the community itself through these live classes. The other thing to note with that as well is that we take those concepts and apply them directly to the students' lives and businesses, right? Yesterday, I was just actually speaking with somebody who is looking to enroll, and they have multiple different businesses. So how do we approach that? There's different frameworks and strategy for all those different endeavors that this person is looking to go into. So we can talk about how to manage those types of situations as well. And there's so much extra framework that comes, or knowledge that comes from even just talking to your peers, right? If, we have somebody who's really great in graphic design, but not so great in social media management, we can share that knowledge across as well. And it just really becomes this great learning community, which is why we call it that. The other thing that we do is we bring in a lot of content from the Digital Marketing Institute as well. So toolkits and templates, as well as just general knowledge from their resources. So we have a lot of really excellent, high-level, globally recognized content that comes into this community through the Digital Marketing Institute. So really excellent things coming together here. We have reduced this again from a $250 a month fee to $175 a month. Previously on the last slide, Ryan had talked about the special pricing exclusively for all of you attendees. Part of the offer as well is $350 towards the first 2 months of your community. So you won't necessarily have to pay for those first 2 months, which is really exciting. $175 after that per month, but it is so worth the value. You get, what is it, 8 hours?
Yeah, let's advance that slide to show that offer there, Meghan.
Yes, yeah. So the first 2 months in our digital marketing training community. After that, it's $175 a month, which again, that's 8 hours of classroom time period per month, which is it's really excellent, especially if you look at current agency rates. But so the 15 to 20% off the course costs plus the 66% Alberta Job Grant subsidy really makes that curriculum accessible. But then we also do have that learning community. So definitely, if you're interested in taking advantage of any of those offers, please use this link here to sign up. You can scan it with your phone, or if you're on your phone, you can write this link down and go visit the page, because this is where you'll be able to access that exclusive offer. It's just for you, no one else. So definitely look into that for sure.
I'll just add some color commentary to this. So if you decide to sign up for the free trial, you can expect that in addition to participating in the coaching calls and getting a sneak peek of what the content will look like, we'll also spend some time helping you to navigate. There are a lot of questions in here about how is it that I go about the Alberta Job Grant? Will I qualify? What are the criteria? Just like any grant that's out there from the government, they come with, mixed emotions. You have to fill out the form properly. You have to follow all these specific rules. The sequence and the timeline really matter. We are experts at navigating through this. So you can expect that in your 2 months trials, you'll have a chance to really get comfortable on what that process looks like. So if you do want to indeed, in addition to already being in the community, if you also want to take any of the short courses or the professional certification, you're going to want to leverage that Alberta Job Grant. So that time in the 2-month trial is also for you to suss out, are any of those courses a good fit for you? Should you take the digital marketing essentials, or maybe do you want to learn about email marketing? Or heck, you know what? It's time to invest in myself. I want to become a certified digital marketing professional, and I want the government to help me get there by subsidizing 66%. We will guide you along and make sure you're in a good place to capture all of those within the trial. So that's why we've extended the trial to 2 months, to really get you in a position where you can make informed decisions and not feel rushed about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about this. There was one question that said, should we reach out to 910 first before applying for the grant programs? Yes, because we can provide you with all the documentation that you need in order to streamline that whole application process and make it as smooth as possible for you.
Yeah, and actually even more pointed, you cannot apply for it until you have our formal estimate. So you do have to go through us first. And this program is not just for 910 Training Academy. This is a program by the government to help employers professionally develop their employees. So just as a small business owner, you want to become familiar with this program, because you might have a bookkeeper that would benefit from an HR course, or not an HR course. Maybe an HR course, a payroll course, whatever. So the key point is our curriculum meets the criteria. We will help you jump through some of those hoops and unlock some of that great funding and professionally develop yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so excited to hopefully see some of you in our community as well, and get to know all of you a little bit better. Are there any final questions on anything that we talked about today, from the brand strategy, the framework, how that all comes together, where you should start, or moving on to the community, to the next sessions, all of that? Any other questions? I'm excited. Trina, did you have anything to add?
I have something to request.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of our favorite things after these webinars, attendees have taken selfies of their learning and we're on screen, and then they tag us on social media. Love that. Love that. This is called user-generated content. This is something you learn about. And what it does is it allows people to socially participate in this case, this webinar. And we'd love for you to tag us. I can see Meghan is frantically looking for our handles there. So thank you, Meghan.
Go back to the beginning. Yeah. So you can find us on any of our platforms at 910 Inc. So definitely give us a tag. We'd love to say hi and wave hello to see where you are. You can also, I see a couple questions about how to reach us. You can find us at 910.ca. This is our phone number. You can also email us at sales@910.ca. So looking forward to connecting with all of you further. This is going to be so exciting. For the next sessions, Business Link will have those available on the events page on their website just about a month before they happen. So if you go back to, frantically go back to the end of the presentation again here, but you go back to that landing page, the link to the events page is also on there. So you'll have access to that there as well. So thank you everybody so much for joining.
Hold on, I just realized we have the QR code on the screen, but let's put the copy and paste the link real quickly, Megan, into the chat. So some people may not be scanning and rather would like to copy paste, click a link. And big thank you to Business Link. Again, this is not our first collaboration with Business Link. We're here all year, folks. So we have a long lineup. The only breaks we're taking is in July when everyone should be getting some sun, and December when it's Christmas time. So we will be doing this once a month, and we're really hoping that you join us in the free trial in the community where you dive deeper and really get a sense of if it makes sense for you to be a marketing manager or an entrepreneur that is always connected to a community that's learning about digital marketing. We'd love to support you and empower you to more effectively take on your digital marketing for your business. We just ended with our purpose. You start with your purpose. We ended with our purpose today. We're really trying to empower you. Thank you, Trina, for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining us. To everyone else, as a reminder, you will be emailed a link with a recording of this webinar. We'll send out the event link for the next one in there too, and probably some other little goodies for you. We are talking about branding and editing within Canva next month, so please register for that via that link that we'll send out. You can also find it on Eventbrite or on our events page. It's in a lot of different places. But that's taking place on February 15th, again, Thursday at 11 o'clock, and we do hope that you can join us. Thank you again to Meghan and Ryan for sharing your knowledge, and thank you everybody else for attending. As a final reminder, you can learn more about BusinessLink and all of our programs and services at businesslink.ca. I hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.